So thanks for joining the webinar. My name is John Kim. I'm with ViewZ. We're one of the vendors with full protection, and we're going to be going over some of our key products today, including mostly on the video wall side and the video wall products that we offer, but some of the other products that we just launched this year as well. So let's start with our presentation. And let me just move these out of the way really quick a little bit. So thanks once again for joining our webinar. Let me just go over a quick information on ViewZ, the company, before we get started with our products. So ViewZ is a long-established professional display products manufacturer. We've been in business since early 2000s. We originally started out as a OEM manufacturer, OEMing for other larger names in the business, and started to market our products under the ViewZ name right around 2009. So it's been about 10 years with the ViewZ branded name and the products. We have our sales office and warehouse with large stock in Orange County, California. That's where everything ships from. Security-specific products, so we make monitors that are mostly geared towards security applications. So video wall monitors, video wall processors, 4K security displays, and a lot of other display products, once again, geared towards security application. We have many security video projects and experiences over the years, domestically and abroad. So we've actually done a lot of projects in Latin America as well, especially in the last 4 years, and have been getting into countries like Colombia, Chile, Brazil, Bolivia, Peru, so pretty much, and also Mexico and other countries in Central America, and also the Caribbean region as well. So we do a lot of projects in Latin America at large, but also domestically over here as well. So once again, many wall projects and many experiences. What distinguishes our products from other products, especially the consumer products that you can easily find at other retailers, our products are commercial grade for professional usage and longer lifespan, and MTF or MTBF, mean time between failures. So all of our monitors feature what's called commercial panels. These are professional panels that are rated for commercial usage, which is totally different than consumer panels. And they actually have different grades. So all of our panels carry the grade A, whereas a lot of the consumer grade panels carry grades like C or E minus. So there's definitely a discernible quality difference between the panels, and also a lot of the consumer products will have more pixels and things like that, whereas we try to minimize that, and that's how the panels are actually rated. So as little dead pixels that you have in these panels, that's how they carry different grades and things like that. So that covers our company history. Okay, now moving on to our video wall products. So this will be broken down into different categories. So we'll start with the video wall monitors that we have, and then we'll get into the processors that we offer. So just before we get started, just want to, for a simple understanding, ViewZ offers the whole entire solution for video wall. So not only just the video wall monitors, but we also offer the processors. The processors also come bundled with the software that's license-free. There's no annual upkeep license. Once again, there's no additional fee. It is included with the hardware, and there's no renewal and things like that. No annual upkeep. Once again, completely free. And we do have other things like mounts that are specifically made for video wall purposes as well. So we'll just go category by category, but we'll start with the video wall monitors first. Okay, section 1, video wall monitors. So we'll cover our 3 different series that we have. UNBS series, which is our ultra-thin bezel models. And then ENB series, which is our extreme narrow bezel models. And after that, EHB series, which is extreme narrow, high brightness models. So 3 different series in our video wall monitors. So we'll cover them one by one. So starting with UNBS series, which is our ultra-thin bezel video wall monitors. But before we get started with that, just a quick overview on our video wall monitors and our history with the video wall monitors. So we've been, we've long been a key player in the video wall market with a steam line of video wall monitors that are really well regarded in the industry. There are some obviously more well-known names, but we've been a player for over 10 years now in this market sector. So a pretty well-known name at this point. And over the years, ViewZ has refined their video wall monitors to have the best features and thinnest bezels for optimal performance and aesthetically pleasing appearance given any application. So the whole point with the video wall monitors, obviously, is that these are monitors that are put together, aggregated together to form a single video wall. So obviously, for visual purposes and aesthetic purposes, you want to have as thin of a bezel as possible between the monitors so that they appear seamless when they come together. So the current video monitor lineup is offered at these 3 versions. Once again, UNBS, EMB, and HB. So now we'll cover the UNBS series. So UNBS series, once again, that stands for ultra narrow bezel. We have 2 different sizes, 49-inch and 55-inch. So these are 1.2 millimeters bezels. So combined, they're right around 2.4 bezel to bezel. That definitely constitutes as being almost seamless when they come together as a video wall, and especially if the for larger walls, like say 3x3 and beyond, 4x4, which is 16 monitors. You'll pretty much not see very much of a gap between the monitors at all. So that's the whole purpose of these monitors. Once again, they are made to be specifically video wall purposes, and the bezel width and how thin they are has a lot to do with the whole design and what they're used for. So once again, 1.2 millimeter bezel. These are special models that support what's called daisy chaining. So you can daisy chain these monitors, and what that means is they connect and actually work as a singular monitor, like under a singular control. So if you need to, for instance, change the color temperature, you can collectively change the color temperature on all of the monitors that are connected through a daisy chain, or control any other functions, change the source, and other functions like that. So that's what that daisy chaining is. Also, that's what it enables the video monitors to do. Also, it allows for just a single output to connect to all monitors that are daisy chained. So it basically also becomes a cost-effective thing where if you don't want to send individual outputs from the processor to individual monitors, and you want to just basically use like one output to drive a video content to all the video monitors, and you can daisy chain them together. So that's what daisy chaining is for. And this series is the only series that we have in our video wall monitors lineup that has that daisy chaining capability. Mullion compensation, I'll explain that in a moment, but basically when you have bezels, a lot of the times when you're displaying a image over 4 monitors, 6 monitors, 9 monitors, you are going to have these issues where the gap between the monitors will basically leave out some of the video or image that you're showing. So Mullion compensation basically will take into consideration what the bezel width is between the monitors, and basically will expand the video so that you're not skipping any portions. And I'll have a visual reference for that in a second to show you what that exactly means. But it is actually a very good feature, because a lot of the times when you have a video wall, that's one of the problems, is that it's basically missing some of the portions that are between, that would otherwise be shown if there was no gaps between the monitors. It also has a feature called frame compensation. I will explain that in a moment also. So these are also, this is another very special feature that's not always available on these types of monitors. These panels are all wide viewing angle panels. So they support 178 degrees top to bottom, as well as 178 degrees left and right. So the purpose of that, you have a monitor that has not as wide of a viewing angle. If you're off to the side, you're not going to see the image as clearly. And I'm pretty sure you've seen something like this before, where, like for instance, if you're on an airplane and you're looking at the screen that's, or a laptop that someone's sitting next to you, they're watching a movie, you're going to just basically see really garbled images because that panel on that laptop is not a wide viewing angle panel, and you're just going to see garbled images if you're off to the side. You have to be pretty much right in front in order to be able to see the clear image or the video. So wide viewing angle basically eliminates that problem. So even if you're off to the side or slightly off to the top or the bottom, the image appears to look the same without there being any kind of a distortion or, you know, obstruction of view, if you will. It also has very high contrast ratio, and what that means usually for monitors is that you're just going to see a lot more depth in the video. So, for instance, if you're seeing a lot of black in your video, you're going to notice that that black goes a lot deeper with a higher contrast ratio, whereas lower contrast ratio monitors will look very flat. So that's another key point of UNBS series. It features a lot of digital and analog interfaces. So in addition to your typical HDMI and DVI interfaces, it also features VGA and other analog interfaces, like which I will get to in a second also. It also comes with a complementary serial control software. This is not always necessary, but if you need to control things on a serial control level, and this has more to do with like an RS-232 communication between the monitors, then you can actually control basic functions of the monitors collectively via serial connections. This is kind of almost the same thing as daisy chaining, but it basically connects the monitors together to be controlled in a singular fashion. So, and once again, there is a complementary serial control software that's available. But typically, that's not something that's always necessary. It also supports 4K resolution in a 2x2 configuration. So it'll basically, the monitor itself is full HD, so 1080p resolution. But if you're driving a 4K video signal into the video monitors over the 2x2 configuration, so it'll require 4 monitors. But if you have a 2x2 wall, or even if you have a 4x4 wall, the 2x2 section of that 4x4 wall, basically over the 4 monitors, you will be able to display 4K image over those 4 monitors. And that's not always the case with some of the other 1080p monitors. So that's another thing that we need to mention. These are all great commercial A-grade panels that are inside these video monitors, as well as all of our other monitor products. They are, once again, all grade A commercial panels. And these models are available, once again, in 49 and 55 inches. Now, moving on. So this is something that basically in the diagram explains the daisy chain capability. So once again, UNBS video monitors have the unique ability to connect together and display the input source via only one output source or output from a video wall server or processor, as opposed to requiring individual output connection to each monitor, thereby reducing the overall cost of the video wall design. So this is something that becomes a very cost-effective tool once again. If your video wall is on a tight budget and you do need to basically kind of skim the cost, if you will, and go with the most cost-effective way to put together a video solution, this is definitely one way to do it. So this diagram basically explains that whole concept. So let's say you have a visual on VMS server. This is just one example. It would go into, and this is one of our newer products called MV401 that has 4 inputs and 1 output capability. So this is one of the processors that we have. So the visual on server would connect to this processor via HDMI in, and from there, this processor has 1 output, and that 1 output goes out to 1 monitor over here, and then so HDMI out, and from there, it goes into HDMI in to the other monitor, and it basically starts daisy chaining in that fashion. So these are all connected now via 1 HDMI out from this processor. So that's something that explains the daisy chain concept once again. Otherwise, you would need to individually have, it would be like what's called a home run configuration, where from 1 processor, you would need to basically have multiple outputs, and each output would connect to each monitor. So 1, and then another output to the 2nd monitor, another output to the 3rd monitor, and another output to the 4th monitor. And obviously that brings up cost. So once again, if you there are certain limitations that that come with doing a video wall in this fashion. For instance, if you stretch the image, it'll look a little bit more because obviously you're stretching the image with 4 monitors, and you know that's the way the signal is rendered via 1 signal out connecting to all monitors. So once again, there are certain limitations, but once again, if the video wall project is something that needs to be more cost effective, that this is something that you can do to definitely bring down the cost of the video wall monitor. So once again, this is something that explains the daisy chain capability of these monitors. Mullion compensation, so I was explaining this earlier. So this is a picture example that shows what that means. So the picture area stops at the inner edge of the bezel. Therefore, when the video wall displays are stacked together to form a tile display, there can be significant screen-to-screen gaps across the panel. So this is an example. You're losing all this video if you don't have a feature like this, where the gaps are between the monitors. So where the bezels are, basically it creates like this weird gap, and it looks very unsmooth that way. Mullion composition feature built into UNBS video wall monitors prevent this from happening. So as you can see, with the mullion composition feature, it smooths out the picture without there being any kind of a weird distortion like this, because there is a gap in between the monitors. And this is kind of an extreme example, obviously. A lot of the times, or most of the times when you have a video wall, you don't want to have gaps that are that big between the monitors. So this is kind of an extreme example, but nevertheless, it's something that explains what mullion compensation does. So when mullion compensation is applied, it basically smooths out any of the gaps between where the gaps are between the monitors. Frame compensation feature. So this is something that has more to do with like a motion when you have a video displaying over the video wall. So by synchronizing the content across the wall, this feature that's built into the UNBS monitor supports a seamless appearance and shows content without any disturbances to create one flawless image for all screens. So with that frame gap, you're going to see like basically images across the video wall that may not sync up and kind of distort in that way. So for instance, if you have a line, they're not going to really align if they're not in sync. So that's something that's showing that has no frame compensation in a video wall scenario. With frame comp, obviously, everything will be synced, and anything in motion will move in unison across the video wall. So basically a synchronizing feature for video with a lot of motion. So, and it basically minimizes any like synchronization like this shown above here. So that would be the very simple explanation of what this does. It synchronizes the video that's heavy in motion across the video wall monitors when the multiple monitors are put together as a video wall. Okay, now moving on to our EMB series video monitor. So this is our extreme narrow bezel video monitor. So video monitors, basically, the narrower you get, fancier they are, basically, and they also do tend to cost more. But video wall is, once again, large part of it is all about appearance. So this is something that basically will guarantee that your video wall looks very aesthetically pleasing without there being any significant gaps. So now, whereas the UNBS series, which is considered ultra narrow bezel, now this is extreme narrow bezel at 0.9 millimeters bezel. So it's 0.3 millimeters thinner. Active to active, or when you have a bezels put together in a video wall, it's 1.8 millimeters. So that's virtually seamless. And when you have a larger video wall in a 3x3 or 4x4 configuration, that gap's going to be once again virtually seamless. As with the UNBS series, these also feature wide viewing angle panels, so 178 degrees left to right and 178 degrees top to bottom. These also have high contrast ratio, a little bit less than the UNBS series, but 3,500 to 1. So that, once again, has a lot to do with the depth of the video, what high contrast ratio does, especially with black in the video. You'll just notice a lot more depth. Digital and analog interfaces, so HDMI, DVI, as well as VGA, AV connections, so composite, S-video, RCA. So there's a lot of analog interfaces as well. And RCA is also in and out for audio. And the PC stereo in, and also RS-232 in for RS-232 connection. If you need to do any kind of a serial connection between the monitors, that is. These have an image rotation feature to prevent pixel burn-in. So it'll basically rotate the image slightly left to right and top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom. And it's not something that you can really easily tell that's happening, but it'll basically shift pixels in that fashion. Once again, left to right and then top to bottom, left to right, top to bottom, so that it moves the video and it prevents the static image burning in to the panel, which is something that happens a lot. And then that's why you have what's called a screensaver on your PC and things like that, so it doesn't burn in the image into your panel. But in this case, that feature is actually built into the monitor. So these are all commercial A-grade panels, once again, as with all of our other ViewZ monitor products. And these have what's called auto power and source recovery. So if there's any kind of a power outage, what it'll do is not only will it power back on if the power is restored, but it'll also go back to the source that it was displaying. So if your source was HDMI, it'll go back to displaying HDMI. If your source was DVI, then it'll go back to displaying DVI. Not all monitors do that. They may power back on, but it'll go back to factory default and go back to whatever the factory default is for the source. So that's not always the case. And if you have a video wall, and not everyone, or not, if there isn't someone who's always tending to it and then taking care of it, and if there's any kind of a power outage and the power's back on, you want to make sure that it goes back to showing what it was showing before with minimal interruption. So that power and source recovery is actually very important, especially in a mission critical type of an installation or application. So. And once again, these are also available in 49 and 55 inches. So those are the two sizes that we have for all of our video wall monitor models, 49-inch and 55-inch. Now moving on to our EHB series. So pretty much everything is identical as our EMB series, but this is something that has higher brightness. So it's the same bezel width at 0.9 millimeters or 1.8 combined in a video wall setting. Oops. But rather than 500 nits for the EMB series. This has 700 nits. So it's a little bit brighter, and this is something that's going to basically satisfy a lot of the requirements. There's a lot of bids out there that require monitors to be a little bit brighter, so it makes it a little bit more, it just makes the video a little bit brighter, and that is a key difference, and this will once again satisfy requirements for bids, government bids, or any other bids that are out there that require higher brightness for video wall. Pretty much everything else is similar or same at the same contrast ratio, same wide viewing angle, same interfaces. So everything else is pretty much the same as the EMB series. Once again, EHB series. Only difference between the two series is that this has higher brightness. And again, these are available in 49 and 55 inches. Now moving on to our video wall processors. So we'll cover our Pro series, which has multiple input and output video options, as well as our MB series, which is what we call Multiviewer video wall processors, and those are a little bit simpler and a little bit more cost-effective, if you will, than our Pro series. That will cover both. So starting with our Pro series. Pro series video wall processors allow multiple input sources to be displayed simultaneously across all video screens with ease, thanks to the user-friendly software. So these can be custom configured to have different number of inputs and outputs, but these are also highly custom configurable and can be built with custom number. It says customer, that's a typo, obviously. It's custom number of inputs and outputs depending on the scope of the video. You only need 4 inputs, but need more outputs because you have 12 monitors. Then we can configure it so that it has 4 inputs but has 12 outputs. So those are custom configurations that we can build the processors with. So the one thing to remember is with our Pro series, they go in increments of 4. So whether it's the input card or output card, each card has 4 inputs or outputs. So that's how they basically increment. So 4, and then the next step up from there is 8. So we would be able to match whatever the necessary number of inputs and outputs is with the closest number possible. But otherwise, the standard models will have the matching number of inputs and outputs. So for instance, our Pro 4 model will have 4 inputs as well as 4 outputs. The license-free CMS software, so this is something that I explained again earlier. Our software comes bundled with the hardware. There's no additional cost for the software, and there's no annual upkeep. There's no license that you have to purchase. It's very user-friendly and easy software to use and manipulate. And it allows the administrator to scale and place input source anywhere within the video wall and create and save arrays as templates that can be run manually or based on schedule. And I'll explain the software portion a little bit later, but that just basically explains that our software is very user-friendly, and you can get to a lot of these key functions very easily without there being a long and arduous learning curve. We also have a model called Pro Mini. This is the only model in Pro series that's basically static in its configuration, so this is the only one that has basically fixed number of inputs and outputs. So this has 1 input capability but has 4 outputs. So this is something that's made to be cost-effective and supports a very simple 2x2 or 1x4 wall configurations. And this is something that's also significantly lower in cost, but it has the same software. So that's a big advantage. The software is exactly the same, and you'll have all the same features. It's just that physically it's a smaller form factor and has a static configuration of 1 input and 4 outputs. So product highlights, once again, is highly customizable in configuration. So we can basically configure it with different number of inputs and outputs as necessary. If you have more video monitors but need less number of inputs because you only have 3 VMS workstations that you need to display over your wall, then you only technically need 4 inputs. So then it could be configured in that way to match those numbers. And once again, they all go in increments of 4. Pro Mini model comes in small form factor with 1 input and 4 outputs, which we went over earlier. User-friendly and license-free CMS software. For the larger Pro Series servers, they also have redundant power supply for uninterrupted operations. So if there's any kind of a power out or a power failure with the power supply, it's a failover situation where the other power supply kicks in within seconds. So there's no interruption with any of the critical operation that you're running with the video, especially in a security setting when you're reviewing, security cameras. It's also VMS agnostic. What that means is it can work with any VMS or NVR server. There's no restrictions as long as your VMS or NVR server has the video output capability, whether that's HDMI or DVI or DisplayPort. That's all that servers require. So I know that some video solutions out there, there needs to be some kind of a integration between the VMS and the processor. That is not the case over here. So it can work with pretty much any VMS or NVR, once again, as long as they have the video output capability. It also has what's called HDCP support. So without HDCP support, what you're gonna do, what you're gonna get from so if you connect say a Blu-ray disc player or some kind of a cable box or something like that, without HDC support, you're gonna get scrambled images because that's an anti-piracy feature that basically restricts you from being able to view or duplicate video without there being some kind of a, not a license, but a consent, basically. So HDCP support is able to recognize that signal and render it properly, so there's no scrambled images when you, once again, connect your Blu-ray disc player or cable box, or anything that has HDCP control, so you don't get scrambled when you plug it into the input source of the processor. So this is something that basically kind of maps out the video a network configuration or just a connection configuration. So there's your Pro server right there, connecting to, in this case, 4 monitors. So it's got 4 outputs. CMS software, you can actually control it from the unit itself, but also it's made so that you can actually have a CMS software running on a separate PC, and then you would basically control it over the network. And what that gives you is a remote capability to also control that server. So you could actually be somewhere else completely away from where the actual wall is, and then you would just remote in through the network to control the video controller. That shows the different input sources, plugging in media box, as well as like a Blu-ray disc player, but also it would take a VMS servers and things like that also. So for instance, right here, VMS server is connecting to, in this case, Pro Mini, and then going into that, going now to the video over here. We also have these devices called 1TRX, which is a HDMI extender. So that's if you have a range between where the video processor is and the monitors. If they're somewhere between anywhere over 50 feet apart, because HDMI carries 50 feet. So it's an HDMI device that between the two, so TX and RX goes on Cat 5 or Cat 6. So it's a range extender, if you will, for longer distance between the monitor, video monitors, and the processor. You do have that kind of a situation. But once again, it's designed to work with UNBS series, whether they be chainable video monitor. So this goes right back to the daisy chain thing that I was explaining with our UNBS monitor. So this would be a bundle basically scenario where if you are trying to do the video on a more budget and more in a to basically lower the cost. So MB401 server has 4 inputs, so it can display for the VMSs or NVRs, but it has one output, and that one output connects to the monitors that are daisy chainable once again. So that's absolutely important in this scenario. Is that the video monitors have to be daisy chainable, otherwise it will not work. Otherwise, you only have one output that's going to connect to one monitor only, which is not really a video point. So that's very important. Monitors are daisy chainable in that configuration. You need more inputs, and we have the MV802 model that supports 8 inputs and 2 outputs. So you can actually do 2 different groups of daisy chains in this scenario. So if you have 8 monitors, you can actually have only 4 monitors going out from one output, and the other 4 daisy chains through the other output, so that they're not all daisy chained. And you know, the video that you're stretching or the image that you're stretching over the wall is not, because there's no stretch if you're daisy chained. Which, you know, once again, it's a little bit compromised when you're talking about a video resolution and the image quality, especially when you're video. But once again, if you all a UNBS series, provides 4 input for NV401. That's what the server looks like. There's a lot of front panel buttons also that controls the display modes and things like that, so you don't have to actually use the software all that much. There's a software that comes with it. It's very basic. It's not as involved as the Pro series, but and it works with UNBS series and other daisy chainable video wall monitors. 8 inputs and 2 outputs for MV802 model, which is what that looks like. And once again, provides a cost-effective video wall solution in conjunction with daisy chainable video wall monitors. MV401 supports 4-screen layout and 6 presets. And 8 user-defined layouts. So that's what all those buttons are over here. So you can just push that button to go to that preset or a predefined layout. MV802 supports 24 presets and unlimited user-defined layouts. So there's no front buttons in this case, but that's controlled by the software. MV802 supports user-design customization such as screen border color and font sizes. So a little bit more customizable in that way. And it also features automatic input aspect ratio detection, so it doesn't really stretch or, you know, render the video in a funny way, and it'll basically, whatever input source is coming in, it'll auto-detect the natural aspect ratio of that video and then display it in that fashion. And these also both support HDCP support, so Blu-ray disc player or cable box that has the HDCP enabled, this will be able to render that signal properly without there being scrambles. And this is something that basically explains the connection between the processors and the video wall monitors. So as you can see, this is a 2x2 HDMI daisy chain. So it's 4 monitors, and it's going up from one output, and they're all connecting together, input, output, input, output, input, output, and daisy chain together. And same thing with 4.1 over here. So you have your input devices that are plugging in through the inputs and then going out through one output to 2x2 daisy chained monitors once again. And with the HDCP supports, Blu-ray disc player or DVR, the media box, or anything that has the HDCP enabled, the signal will be rendered properly. Now going over our video wall accessories. So XMS, this is our video wall mounts that I've designed and made specifically for video wall applications. So these are spring-loaded scissor-type mounts. So they actually are made to pop out. So when you have your video monitor mounted on these monitors, you can basically push on the monitor and it'll basically pop out. And the purpose of that is if you have something like a 3x3 video wall, the monitor in the very middle is going to be basically locked because you don't have, you got all the other monitors surrounding that monitor in the middle. And if you need to get to the back of the monitor, basically you need to take down all the other monitors surrounding it, which is a major hassle. So by being able to pop that video wall monitor out and being able to get to that back of the monitor not only makes it more serviceable, but like the cable comes undone in the beginning, in the back of the monitor, or get some plugs or something like that. For any reason, if you need to get to the back of the monitor, this makes it super easy. It also comes with an alignment tool, so that because if these mounts are misaligned, they're not gonna. The video monitors are not going to aggregate together properly, and you're going to have these funny gaps that are angled. Obviously, it does not look good. So you need to have a level to make sure that everything aligns perfectly. And this alignment tool that comes with these XMS mounts is a very easy to use level, basically, that allows you to, or that helps you to basically align these mounts on the wall perfectly. One TRX, which I was explaining earlier, is an HDMI extender that, once again, goes from HDMI to Cat5 or Cat6 in between, and then, once again, goes back up to HDMI. Actually, the maximum, I said 370 feet was the maximum distance. That's actually 394 feet maximum distance. So something that extends the range a lot longer than your typical 50 feet for HDMI. So we do have these also available. Section 3 now, so that pretty much concludes our video wall monitors. I was told that there's some kind of a issue with audio, so I'm not going to be able to hear you talk back. But if you have any questions using the chat, you can send me a chat right now, or a message right now with any specific questions. So I'll pause for about 10-15 seconds. If there's no reply, then I'll just move on with the section number 3, and we're pretty much almost at the end of the presentation at this point. So let me wait about 10-15 seconds for your possible questions. Okay, so no questions. We're just going to proceed with our section 3, which is multi-touch digital whiteboard monitors. This is another. This is not really a video wall, but we have a lot of monitor products, and this is something that we just launched that I wanted to focus on. So the series is called IBX-T series, and it's a multi-touch digital whiteboard monitors, once again. Not sure why it's not skipped. Okay, here we go. So IBX-T series multi-touch screen whiteboard monitors. IBX-T series monitors are large 4K displays that are designed to work as digital whiteboards. So I'm sure you've seen some of these devices, but basically nowadays a lot of schools and conference rooms are using digital whiteboards as opposed to your typical whiteboards that you manually write on and draw on. So obviously these will give you a lot more flexibility. These are basically like a tablet, almost like tablet or computer devices that have a lot more capabilities, obviously, than your just a static whiteboard. So that's what the new technology is allowing for once again schools and conference rooms to take advantage of. So that's what this product is designed for, primarily for schools and conference rooms. So these are available in 75, 86, and 98 inches. And these large displays support multi-touch for smooth, latency-free hand and stylus operations. So basically, it's got multi-touch. It's got sensors everywhere within the monitors. And the monitors, so it's not just one spot that's more sensitive than the other. So it's basically like your iPad, but on a much larger scale. So anywhere you touch, is sensitive to that touch and will respond, accordingly to whatever you're able, trying to control and things like that. You can also use a stylus, which is basically a pen, to write with and things like that. And for maneuvering contents for maneuvering contents as well as writing and drawing. Content sharing from an external PC or Apple computer is easy via hardware connection using HDMI or USB, or via remote connection using USB dongle, such as Google Chromecast. So you can actually connect your PC through HDMI and USB, and then once that PC is connected, you have the full control of that PC and whatever's on that PC. So not only is it just displaying, so it's much different than just connecting a monitor to your PC. In this case, you're actually going to be able to use your hand or stylus to control all the contents that are on your PC. So whether that's your PowerPoint presentation, your Outlook for emails, whatever is on your PC, you're able to now control it from that monitor. So for presentation purposes, for classroom purposes, that's a perfect feature. If you don't want to do that by hardware connection, if you want to actually do a content sharing remotely and wirelessly, you can use some kind of a third-party USB dongle device like Chromecast to screencast whatever's on your PC and then display it over the monitor. So it kind of works in a very similar fashion as a lot of the televisions now have screencasting capability, or if you have an Apple TV or something like that, you can screencast from your phone or your tablet device or your iPad to display on your television. So if you're watching like a YouTube video or something like that, and that's on your phone, and you want to share that with the rest of the room and show that on the TV, that's what you can do nowadays. And this is pretty much the same exact concept, but in a more school classroom or conference room kind of a setting. So target applications once again include schools, corporate conference, and even like training rooms for companies and corporate rooms. So once again, available in sizes 75, 86, and 98 inches. It runs on Android OS. So it's an Android device, and it can run any Android-supported apps. So you can also actually download and install any Android apps that you want to run that would be embedded into the monitor and run, basically independently from the PC. It's multi-touch operation for touch and stylus operation once again, so anywhere you touch on the monitor will basically respond accordingly. And it's got that content sharing feature that I mentioned earlier, either via HDMI and USB, or remote content sharing via screencasting using something like Google Cast. It's 4K in resolution, so it's obviously very good picture for ultra high definition video or image. And like all of our other products, it's wide viewing angle at 178 degrees, left and right, top to bottom. And kind of basically over this page kind of reiterates some of the key highlights. So multi-touch, the fact that it runs on Android OS, it is a true digital whiteboard. So yeah, once again, just the fact that you can write with your hand and a stylus, basically becomes a very powerful classroom or a conference room or training room tool. And content sharing and screencasting, which I explained earlier. Commercial grade panel, same thing. So pretty much everything was already explained. And these are the typical OneScan applications for this product. So schools, conference rooms, and any kind of corporate training rooms. So yeah, and a lot of classroom and schools are moving towards this direction, and there are other products that are available from other manufacturers. But once again, what distinguishes ViewZ from other manufacturers is that our products are all rated for commercial usage. So even for something like this, which should be made for full commercial purposes, a lot of them are going to be featuring consumer panels and things like that, which doesn't always give you the mean time between failure and the lifespan and, commercial performance, around-the-clock performance of what our monitors and, the panels that we use in our products will give you. So that is, once again, a key major difference between our products and some of the other products that are similar that are available in the market. So, And that pretty much concludes our presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me at this time. Otherwise, we will basically conclude the presentation once again. And thank you very much for joining. All right, great. Thank you very much for joining. And I will get a list of attendees today, and basically we'll try to see if I can send you emails with some more information like spec sheets and things like that, and also our digital catalog and other information. And also feel free to ask Camilla or anybody at Full Protection if you have any particular questions about our products, and if you need to know more about our products, then we'll basically coordinate with Camilla and other people at Full Protection to get you that information. So thank you very much once again, and have a great day.